So this is probably going to be the most out there video that I've ever made, talking about really bizarre stuff, but I feel really called to speak about my experience and what I've been learning and the information that's been coming to me the last week, like left and right. It's just like my guides are showing me so much information and kind of piecing all the pieces together for me to understand the experience that I had. And I feel called to talk about it because I know that people that feel connected to me might also be connected to this information and this program that I'm going to be talking about. So I'm holding my multivite and I have my multivite necklace and my multivite ring, so I'm feeling a lot of energy. I also know that my guides are here with me right now, and I wanted to record this video with UFOs in the background. So this video is going to be about the hybrid children in the hybridization program. So for the last week, I've been getting so much information regarding hybrid children. And if you haven't heard of this term yet, I'm sure you have. If you're watching this video, I'm pretty sure that you have. But if you haven't, hybrid children are a mix of human and ET DNA. So they're part human and they're part ET, depending on what race. There could be multiple ET races mixed with human. There's a lot of different races of ET beings that are a part of this hybridization program. I'm not sure how many and I'm not sure which ones. One of the most known ones is the Greys. And I think I need to take a few deep breaths. I'm feeling so much energy. It's like actually really intense. So I'm gonna do that. And if you guys want to take a few deep breaths with me, you can, because you might feel the energy from the phone. Yeah. Just like ground some of this energy down, because it's like a lot of energy. Okay, I think that's good enough. So what I have learned recently, literally this past 2 weeks, I think it's only been this past week, but I've been learning the reason why people get abducted. So there's a few different reasons people can be taken on ships. There's some of us that are starseeds that go through healing. They take us on the ship for healing, or there's different reasons. But one of the main reasons that I found that I didn't know before, I didn't know why people got abducted, but a lot of it has to do with the hybridization program. So if you've ever heard, sorry, one second, I have to turn off this TV so you guys don't hear me talking and something distracting in the background. Okay, so a lot of abduction stories talk about like gynecological procedures happening in the ship. So I don't know if you've ever heard any abduction stories specifically, but if you listen, like if you look up some on YouTube, look up some articles, type in abduction story, whatever, there is an underlying theme in almost all of the abduction stories, and it is something to do with eggs or sperm being abstracted by the person being abducted. This is really weird stuff, guys. I warned you at the beginning of the video. It gets a little bizarre, but this is something I feel called to talk about, and I'll explain my connection with this after explaining this. So
they go through a period where they kind of calm down, they're put on a table, and certain examinations take place. certain procedures. They're often reproductive procedures which involve with men sperm samples being taken, and with women needles which go in the abdomen or in the vagina, but we believe this has to do with harvesting ova.
Fetuses are implanted, little tiny embryos. Fetuses are removed. This is standard material. This is standard stuff.
I recently found out that abductions, a lot of them happen because of the hybridization program. So when people are taken up on a ship, male or female, it's agreed to on a soul level before the person even incarnates, even though it's hard for us when we're down here. We forget, we experience amnesia when we go through the birth canal, when we go through the portal, and we go from spirit realm to the realm of matter and physical existence. In the third dimension, we're passing through a portal, which is the yoni, and we experience amnesia as we pass through that portal. So just like we experience that when we come onto earth, we don't remember any of our prior soul contracts or agreements or our lives. We're beginning to remember now, but it takes time for us to remember, basically. But anyone who's been abducted, it's agreed to on a soul level. So it's nothing that's, your free will isn't taken or anything like that. So yeah, so just wanted to add that part in, because you can find a lot of stories where people feel victimized and experience traumatic experience because they forget it's something that they agreed to prior to incarnating. But yeah, so when you're abducted, the underlying story is that you have like something inserted into, if you're a woman, into your vaginal area, and what is happening if they are doing that, if that's what you experience, or if you hear that on stories, they're extracting eggs. And if it's a man, they extract sperm. And why they do this is because they take that sample of DNA from the man or the woman, from the person that agreed to be a part of this hybridization program, and they're taking that and mixing it with their ET DNA. And if it's a male, they mix it with the ET eggs. If it's a female, they mix it with the sperm of an ET, and they create a, what is it called, an embryo? Basically, they put it together and they create a hybrid child. That is usually the first stage of the abduction, when they extract the things that they need to make the hybrid children. So then after that, there's another abduction that takes place where they take you back on the ship and they put the baby back in the woman so that she can carry it. And then they remove, there's another abduction that happens where they remove the embryo at a very early stage. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I heard in a documentary, like a couple of weeks old or a couple of months old, they remove the fetus. And they finish growing and birthing the child with technology on their ships, because they're highly technologically advanced to where we wouldn't even understand how they know how to do this, but they do it. And then they grow the babies and they raise them on their ship or planet. I don't know exactly, because there's many different races that do this. One of the main ones is the Greys. And the reason the Greys are doing this, from what I've learned, is that they do it because their race is dying out, and they are looking for ways to, or they were looking for ways to save their race. And so that's when the hybridization program started for the Greys, is they had souls that they were connected to, who agreed to help save their race by being part of the hybridization program and allowing your DNA to be mixed with ET DNA to birth a hybrid child so that their race could be saved. So I'm trying to hurry this video up. So, the Moldavite is so hot right now. It's so warm. My hand is so warm. I'm feeling so much intense energy. I was trying to say I'm gonna try to hurry this up because I can only upload 15-minute videos to IGTV, but from my phone on my laptop I could do 30 minutes, so maybe I'll just do 30 minutes. But so what I've recently found out, because I've been guided to watch all of these different documentaries that are they're explaining this to me. My guides are explaining this to me through documentaries. It's kind of how I operate with my guides. Sometimes I don't hear them. Actually, most of the time I don't actually hear them in my ear telling me things like a lot of people do. We all hear our guides differently. Maybe I'm not as strong of a clairaudient, so I don't hear. I'm more claircognizant, where I just know things, and my guides communicate to me through books and documentaries and synchronicities, and a lot of guides communicate to us in that way, many different ways. However we can receive them is how they'll communicate with us. But oh my god, my hand is like burning up right now holding this Moldavite. Wow. So sorry, it's so much energy right now. Okay, I just wasted 2 minutes. Back to what I was talking about. So I recently learned through my guides guiding me to different documentaries, articles, YouTube videos, I've learned that, and channelings, that the Greys are us. They are humans, but on another timeline. So the timeline that the Greys, how it happened, I don't know how to verbalize this, but I'll give you guys some sources of where I got this information, and I really resonate with it and believe it to be true. So take what resonates, and if it doesn't resonate, that's okay. You can leave that information with me in the video, and you don't have to take it and believe that as your truth. But what I truly believe, and I believe this when I heard it, I just got chills of truth, and I just knew that I believed that. So there's a ET being called Bashar, and he channels, there's this guy called Daryl something. He channels Bashar, which is a future, he's the hybrid child of the Greys. So that's how he describes himself. He's one of the hybrids to the Greys. And he speaks and he helps humanity, just like most ETs that are being channeled right now. The humans, they're here to help. And yeah, so they say that the ETs, the Greys specifically, are us on another timeline. So there are multiple different timelines. There's like infinite potential possibility, and anytime a decision is made, another timeline goes in the opposite direction, and another timeline is created. So I don't know how to explain this. So say that anytime you make a decision in life, it splits, the timeline splits. So say, for example, me, I was living in Mount Shasta, and I was deciding, should I move to Hawaii? So I chose to move to Hawaii. There goes that timeline. Me on the timeline of moving to Hawaii. But at the same time, when I made that decision to move to Hawaii, there was another aspect of me that chose to stay in Mount Shasta. And so that created a different timeline every time a decision is made. So I made the decision to go off to Hawaii. Another aspect of me wanted to experience the opposite. So I went off and I stayed in Mount Shasta. And so there's that timeline. So just like that example, the timeline that we're on now is a positive timeline where humanity chooses to wake up and ascend and not destroy ourselves and the planet. But just like any decision, we go off to experience the opposite, to experience basically whatever possibility we can. There's infinite possibilities, because it's how source consciousness experiences itself in every possibility that could happen. So when we chose to go experience the higher timeline of Earth, there was a timeline that was created that was a negative timeline where we chose to not ascend, and we ended up essentially destroying ourselves, and we were on the brink of extinction. became the Greys. This is explained further in a documentary called First Contact. If you want to look it up, it's on Amazon Prime. But the being, Bashar, he explains how this happens. Bridget Nielsen also talks about this on one of her Hybrid Children videos with Leor Alexandra. So you could search that on YouTube. Type in Hybrid Children, Bridget Nielsen, or Leor Alexandra, and their video will pop up. And she explains how the Greys are us on a negative timeline, or whatever you want to call it, a different timeline, a parallel timeline. So the Greys are people, they're humans, and they are the version of us that chose to go the opposite direction. They went in too far with technology, and they lost their ability to reproduce, and they lost their ability to feel emotions in the way that we do. So they're more cold because they don't have those emotions that humans do, because they almost like numbed them from becoming so technologically inclined without becoming just as spiritually inclined and creating a balance. It was kind of like similar to what happened in Atlantis. So their civilization was dying out, and because they were so technologically advanced, they knew how to save their race by creating the hybrid program. So
the story of my people began in a parallel reality on an alternate version of Earth. The humans on that Earth were technologically far in advance of the humans in your civilization. However, they became focused on technology and intellect. Over generations, they lost connection to their humanity. They lost the ability to feel. They even lost the ability to reproduce. They engineered love out of their lives. They accomplished great technological and intellectual feats at the expense of their emotions, their physical bodies, and their spiritual qualities, which they considered to be inferior. But in doing so, they slowly destroyed their environment. In a last desperate attempt to perpetuate their species, they moved underground and began to clone themselves, but discovered that their DNA was no longer viable. When the attempt to clone themselves failed, they genetically mutated themselves into the beings you know as the Greys, in an attempt to adapt to their dying planet. However, they realized that the only solution would be to find a viable source of human DNA and introduce it back into their genetic makeup. They used their advanced technology to shift into parallel realities, such as your own, where they knew that humans must still exist. But without emotions, they had no understanding of the fearful impact they would have as they abducted your people and extracted DNA in order to create our hybrid civilizations, which took centuries to complete. We were designed to bring emotionality and spirituality, vitality and balance back into the Grey civilization, to reconnect more fully with creation so their culture would never die out. Although many of your people experienced these encounters with the Greys traumatically at first, we are grateful that you chose to help bring our civilization into being. In our appreciation, we share our knowledge and experience with you, with the vision that your world will choose a more positive outcome than the Greys, for we perceive that you have been traveling down a similar path.
If it's true that the destruction of their parallel Earth gave rise to the beings we call the Greys.
The Greys are just one type of ET race that are in this hybrid program or hybridization program. And they're the most common ones that people recount when they go through an abduction experience. It's the most common one that's remembered or talked about with the grays, because you'll always hear people describing the grays, the Zetas, like the typical alien emoji, how people see aliens before they learn about there's aliens that look like praying mantises, there's lion being aliens, there's humanoid aliens, there's literally just as much ET races as there is races of humans and species of animals and plants. There's just so many. But one of the like famous, most popularized one is of the grays, the little gray aliens with the big black eyes. They're also called the Zetas. So they are us, they are humans in a negative timeline. But yeah, I gave you the 2 documentaries if you want to look into this further. Also, Gigi Young on YouTube talks about this. If you want to type in on YouTube, Gigi Young, G-I-G-I Young, hybrid children. There's so much information you can look up if you're interested in this. So I've learned that a lot of abduction experiences are for the hybridization program. So that's why when you hear that people get abducted, there's like gynecological procedures that go on, and I never understood that before. And just this week, my guides have been guiding me to information left and right about this, and then it triggered a memory of a dream. It was not a dream, but I recalled it as a dream when I woke up, and this whole time, for months and months and months, I thought this was a dream. I remember recording a video about it. It was last December in 2020, December 18th, 2020. I made a video about it, but I left out the part of the dream that made me uncomfortable to talk about and share. So I'm not going to use that video. I'll just recall the experience of my experience with an abduction, I guess you want to call it. Even though I didn't see it that way for the longest time, I'm starting to realize what it was. And this whole time I just thought it was a dream. Like, I didn't know, it made no sense. It made no sense until up until a week ago, when my guides started showing me why I had this experience and what it meant. So, sorry, I have to keep taking deep breaths. I'm gonna try to make this under 30 minutes so I could post it on my IGTV. So, in this dream, so like I said, the Greys are just one race of ETs that are part of this hybridization program. There's many different ones, and I don't know specifically which ones, but the ones in my experience were not Greys, even though I feel very connected to the Greys, and I have a lot of love for them in my heart. It was not them, but okay, so let me tell you guys my experience. So in December of 2020, shortly after I had my other ET dream about the fake government created UFO, where I thought in the dream it was a real UFO, I got so excited, and then found out it was a fake government UFO that they used to try to put people in fear. It was like a government psyop or whatever. That was the first ET dream I ever had, and it was more of like a message. It was like a prophetic dream, like where it was warning that the government is gonna start putting out fake UFO stuff to put people in fear, and it actually started happening, so that was weird. And then the second experience I had, which I thought it was a dream, was, okay, so I will explain this to you the best that I can. So in the dream, it started as I was climbing up a huge water slide into the sky. The water slide was like, you guys can't see that building. So there, I'm on the 12th story right now of a high-rise building, and it was taller than that. So I don't know how many feet that is, 80 feet, 100 feet. It went up very high in the sky. And I was climbing up the slide, and it was dark, it was nighttime, and I climb up to the top of the slide where Heather is sitting at the top. Heather, her Instagram, Activation Vibration, she's in all my ET dreams. She was in my first one too, but when I get to the top, she's sitting there, and we're looking up at the sky, we're looking at the stars together, and all of a sudden this sense of fear happens. Or not fear, I don't know. The sense of like something's gonna happen. Like we sensed something was gonna happen, and then all of a sudden, fleets of starships, not like motherships, they weren't huge. They were like they were like a starship, like a small, they were lots of like fleets of them, hundreds of them pouring in through the night sky. There were helicopters. You could hear the blades of the helicopters, and you could sense that these beings had arrived. And I was not with my daughter at the time. She was down in, there was this ocean. So the slide led right into the ocean, but there was these floating rooms. They were floating on the ocean. I don't know. My daughter was in there, and I had a sense of, oh my God, something's about to happen. We don't know what. I need to find my daughter. So I remember grabbing Heather's arm and pulling her down the slide so we can go get Jayla. And I could feel like she didn't want to go, but I was like panicking. I was like, I need to get my daughter, please. Like, let's go. And so I pulled her down with me. And as we're both going down the slide, like 80-foot slide into the ocean from the sky, like I'll explain to you later what all this symbolism means, or what I feel it means. But after we splashed into the ocean, the waves were so chaotic that we got separated. And then I ended up somehow getting to these rooms that were floating on the cosmic ether ocean. And I go, and these beings come out, and they're humanoid, and they're wearing blue spacesuits with white cuffs that look like Ashtar Command. They had the white cuffs right here, white sleeve cuffs, and then the rest of the suit was like skin tight blue. And then they had like the general, if you've seen any like army outfit or military, they have like stars and rankings and stuff. They had that on their suits. And I remember telling these beings, I said, I need to find my daughter. I got separated from my daughter. I don't know what's going on. Please help me find my daughter. And so they helped me find her. All of these humanoid beings, they called themselves the Nine, but they looked like Ashtar Command. So I don't know what race of ET they were, but they were all men, or they all looked like men. But I don't remember if it was a woman or them, but someone took me to my daughter. And when they took me to this room, she was playing with other kids, and there were a bunch of whiteboards standing, like there was stuff I could barely remember, but there was just like whiteboards that they could draw on. I think there was stuff written on them, and it was almost like a classroom or something, but they were playing with these toys. And they brought me in this room where I looked around and I saw her playing with all the kids, and I'm like, this is so bizarre. Is this just to keep them calm or something? Like, what is the purpose of this room? I didn't know. But when I was reunited with Jayla, I just broke down crying, and I was like, oh my God, thank you. Like, thank you so much. Thank God you're okay. Thank God we're united. We could be together and see what's going on. And I remember there were people lined up, and they wouldn't let us leave. And we wanted to leave because we didn't know what they were there for. We didn't know their intentions. And so I remember multiple times in the experience, I tried to escape with Jayla. And because we were scared, we didn't know what the purpose is. No one would let us know why they were there. They didn't communicate with us. It was silence. They just guided us places, and we were not allowed to understand what was going to happen. So I remember part of the dream, me and Jayla tried to escape. We actually got away, and we were driving, and then when we came back, we hit a dead end, and there was one of the being standing there with a army type of suit wearing guy with a clipboard who was like a scientist or something. I don't know, or it might have not even been an army suit. It might have been an actual lab coat scientist with a clipboard standing next to the blue suited humanoid being. And they said, I'm sorry, but we can't let you leave. It was like a telepathic. I don't think they even spoke English or human or anything. They were like more so telepathically telling us like, you can't go, you have to come back with us. So they take us back in the room, but they take us back in a different room, and they take my daughter, I'm with her the whole time, and they put her up on this table that was specifically made for children. It was like a gynecological table, but it was for a child. It was like this big, like it was made for children. And they put my daughter up on this table, and it's weird for me to talk about this dream, but I feel like it's for a reason, so I'll just finish telling it. They put her on a table, and they started doing some type of exam, in like a gynecological exam. And in the dream, I was like, what are they doing? Like, I did not understand it because I didn't learn about all this stuff with abductions and hybridization. It wasn't in my awareness yet. So I just remember being in the dream, like thinking like, what in the hell are they doing? And I just remember holding my daughter's hand, and like, I think I was like rubbing her leg and continuously telling her like, it's okay, they're not gonna hurt you. And what they were doing, it was like a scientist. It was like a doctor, but a scientist. Like, and I'm pretty sure they were wearing a lab coat or something that made me know that they were scientists, and they were doing some exam on her, and I didn't know what it was. And I was like, it's okay, like it's gonna be okay. Like, I knew they weren't gonna hurt her. I had a sense of like knowing that they weren't gonna harm her, but I was just confused and I didn't know what was happening. And so I'm like relaxing her and just telling her it's okay, it's gonna be over with. And then it ended, and then I forget exactly what happened after that, but I think we went back to that room, and yeah, like that's the most important part of the dream, so I'll end the story there. But I remember there was a lot more detail. I'm just not recalling it. But I found out after all this information kept being presented to me from my guides, I finally realized that it wasn't a dream, that I literally experienced a sort of abduction, and that I realized that my daughter is part of the hybridization program with another race of ETs that aren't the Greys, and they're humanoid, and I don't know what they are, but I know we're connected to them, and I know we agreed to this on a soul level, so it's not like a bad thing, but it's just new information for me. So I never realized what this experience was until the guides were showing me, like, you're part of the hybridization program. And I still questioned it. And then when I questioned it, the guides confirmed it with more synchronicity, more messages. So I was guided to several different documentaries that was explaining to me when I was wondering if it was really a dream or an experience. And then right as I was thinking that, the part that popped up in the documentary, it felt like it was speaking directly to me. It said, some UFO abductions, you wake up recalling it as a dream, because that's the only way that your conscious mind can even make sense of the experience of what just happened. So it was literally like it was telling me, like my guides were relaying to me through the documentary that this wasn't a dream and it was an experience. And I actually do feel that in my heart. I feel that, okay, the video is almost going to be 30 minutes. I have to stop it because you can only upload 30-minute videos on your laptop. On your phone, it's like 15. So I'm going to stop this and I'm going to make a part 2. Okay, so this is part 2. So after I realized that my daughter was a part of this hybridization program, for hybrid children, ET and human children, I started questioning, am I a part of this program? And when I started to question this, my guides showed me another documentary that answered that for me, because this is how my guides communicate with me. And the part of the documentary that came on said that most likely, if you are a part of the hybridization program, it is almost, what is the word they used? It is almost like 100% that your child will be a part of the hybridization program.
So what it seemed to be was that there was a program where people were picked up again and again and again as if they had been being studied over their lifetimes. And they were sort of automatically part of a program which was genetic in function.
But for me, it was like the opposite. I was like, okay, I had the dream about Jayla's abduction with me. I was with her on the ship, and I was wondering, like, am I a part of this? Do I have hybrid kids? Like, I didn't know what my connection with it was. I was just like, now I understand why I was meant to be Jayla's mom. Because imagine if she starts to recall some of these experiences, how scary that could be. And I know that I'm the perfect mom for her because I have been learning a lot about starseeds and everything with like to do with this part of our mission. So yeah, I just wanted to share that because I think it's special. Because like I remember when I learned that, I was like, oh, it makes so much sense why this little alien baby chose me to be her mom, because she's a part of this hybridization program, and I'm gonna help her with that somehow, understand it when she's old enough to understand it or whatever. I'm sharing very out there stuff, and if you don't believe this stuff, it's okay. I'm just sharing for those of you who will resonate with it and maybe have a similar experience, because this is all new to me. This is like, I just found this stuff out this week, and I know it to be true in my heart. That's why I sound so sure of myself when I'm talking as if it's like a real thing, because I do feel it to be true. And I've been doing endless research. I've been guided to hours and hours and hours of documentaries, YouTube videos, like articles that my guides are sending me to answer these questions for me, and it's just trippy. It's a trippy experience. But I want to explain the symbolism in my dream, because I shared this dream with my friend, my soul sister, and I was explaining to her that about the slide, and I was like, I know it's weird, but like it was like a symbolism. It's not like it was a literal slide. And she had the download, Megan, my soul sister Megan, she had the download that the slide was how my mind was making sense of going into a portal to a different dimension. So when you're abducted, you're taken either up on the ship or like you're taken somewhere else outside of the third dimension, and mostly it's like your astral body. Some people get taken like in their actual bodies, and some are taken in their astral body during dream state or while they're sleeping, so it's less traumatic. So as I was explaining to her, she's got this download and was like, this is how your mind made sense of you going into a different dimension or a portal. It was like a wormhole, if you've heard of wormholes. So yeah, and then I was explaining to her how the rooms that they took my daughter in were just sitting on the ocean. And we pieced this information together a while back when we were working on our Kangen water thing, but we talked about how we had to download that the physical water of the third dimension on Earth is like a physical representation of the ether of space, like the Akash, the ether, basically the fabric of existence. I don't know how to describe it, but so we pieced that symbolism together, that the water that the buildings, or not the rooms we're sitting on, was in space, was the cosmic ether. Isn't that weird how our brain makes sense of things? So not like I could physically, or not like I could consciously make sense of that in a dream as soon as I wake up, but the only way I was able to remember that experience was for my mind to make sense of it any way I could with what was familiar to me in my subconscious. And I know the ocean, I know slides, I don't know much consciously about ether and stuff like, and dimensions and wormholes. So that was the only way that my mind could make sense of it, you know? But we realized that that's what it was. So I was on a ship, and it was in like space in a different dimension, and the rooms that I was being taken into were different rooms on a ship. And that's the only way when I woke up that I could remember it, just trying to pull anything of how to make sense of the dream, but it was all symbolism. And another piece of allowing me to realize what this experience was in one of the documentaries that my guides guided me to watch, says that in abduction stories, it's a common theme that you're taken to different rooms. There's a room where children are playing with weird toys, like alien toys, and they're all sitting in the room. It's a room where kids play. And that was what I remembered, going into a separate room where a bunch of children were playing and calm and just playing on one of the rooms in the ships. So when I saw that documentary, I was like, holy shit, I've never gotten stronger chills in my life. I got full body chills and I was just like, whoa, like what the heck?
They might be taken into a room where they see, well, let me just say that the babies that they see are strange looking babies. They look sort of like half human, half alien. Sometimes they look more human, actually, but still odd. They're taken into a room where they see toddlers sometimes. Kids who are maybe 2, 3, 4 years old, who are playing with some toys. They play with the children, play with the toys. The toys are unusual toys.
So yeah, there was a lot of stuff confirmed to me about this experience that I wanted to share because I think it's so interesting. And then after I remembered and realized what this experience was, that it was an abduction and it had to do with the hybrid program, then the guides just bombarded me with all of this information about hybrid children. And I know there's much more information to come, but that's what they're giving me right now because I'm ready for it now. When I had the experience, I wasn't ready to receive all of this information about the hybridization program and everything. So now they're giving it to me, and I just wanted to share with you guys if you had similar feelings about this or experiences. But yeah, when I make another video, I'll explain more of what comes to me over the next however long it takes for me to receive more information about this. But yeah, I'll make a part 3 when that happens.